Okay, so good morning, Friday, last session of the week. I think mostly everyone has been in at least one class this week. But just to recap, if you have something that allows your feet to slide across the floor, that would be great. So if it's on a hard surface, it can be a towel, some socks. You can use these slider things if you have them. If you're on a carpet, use a tray or a magazine. But if you don't have anything, don't worry. As you know, there are some variations that we can work instead. In terms of other props, one of each type of block would be useful to have. And again, if you don't have those, you can substitute with books instead. So take a moment just to gather your props, make sure you've got everything that you want to work with close to hand. And then let's come down onto our backs to begin practice. So just come down, find a resting pose, take a few moments there. And so to begin with, just allow the body to rest. Just allow the body to be heavy, to settle down into the surface that's holding you. Checking into how the body is feeling. How are you feeling physically? How are you feeling energetically? Taking these first few moments of practice to establish that sense of presence and to allow the breath to settle into its natural flow. So being really curious as to what's felt in the body, really curious as to the sensations of contact between the body and floor, or the sensations of the breath as it draws in and out of the body. Tuning into sensations from within the body itself. Maybe there are little tingling sensations or pulsations of energy through the body that you can detect. And we'll take another minute or maybe even just a little longer than a minute here. And you can either continue to rest in stillness, observing body, observing breath, or if you prefer, just begin to take some gentle movements, beginning to introduce a little bit of conscious movement and mobility into the body in any way that feels good. There are any parts of the body that feel they could do with a little taking care of, then you might dwell there for a few moments, stretching, mobilizing. And then if you are moving around, we can just let those movements begin to subside. And once they've done so, we'll bring the knees in towards the chest, just to take a little squeeze around the shins. You might want to rock from one side to the other for a couple of moments. And as you come back to center, we'll release the feet down onto the floor. Hands can rest flat as well. And from here, let's just begin to roll the pelvis forwards and back. As we roll forwards, we create an arch in the back. As we roll the pelvis back, we spread that lower body into the floor. So continuing from there, simple movements of the pelvis that affect the position, the length of the spine. As you spread the back down into the floor, we can start to create a little lift into bridge, and then roll the body down and take that forward tilt of the pelvis from there. Back arches, back spreads down, and we can lift into that bridge pose just as high as feels appropriate for the body right now. And then one more time, we'll lift, we'll hold the bridge just for a few moments, a little squeeze back on the feet towards the shoulders. And then body releases down from there. Once the pelvis is grounded, take the hands onto the fronts of the thighs. Again, we'll spread that lower back down. Let's pick up the feet, create some pressure forwards with the hands, some pressure back with the thighs, and then stretch the legs. And we'll take a few rounds of that movement, just bring a little blood flow to the muscles along the back line of the legs. Okay, one more time. Lengthen the legs, hold there. Play with the level of pressure between hands and thighs. So you can intensify a little, then release away. Notice what's felt through all parts of the body, and notice what happens to the breath as well. And then from here, we'll release those feet all the way down to the floor again. And then let's draw just the left knee in towards the body. Hands can stay flat. We'll roll the pelvis down. So roll the pelvis, lengthen the tailbone towards the right heel, lift up into one leg bridge. And then we lower. So same movement that we were taking before, just that we've got one knee drawing in towards the chest now. Lift and then lower. The next time you lift up into that one-legged bridge, hold there. We're going to stretch the left leg long and then catch around the back of the left leg, whether that's around the hamstring, the calf, wherever you can reach to. Draw the leg in just a fraction and hold that position as you release the pelvis down again. We'll stay here for a few moments. Draw back with the hands and draw that left leg into the palms. And again, we'll stay with that left leg long. Let's bring the hands to the floor again, and we'll return to that one leg bridge movement. A lift. Once you've lifted, you might draw the left leg in just a fraction more, and then lower down. Let's take another 4 rounds. Just work at your rhythm. See if we can really control the movement down as well as up. And then one last time, we'll lift up, we'll hold. Let's get that squeeze back on the right foot. And then we'll bring the pelvis down, we'll bend the left knee. Let's draw the right knee into the chest, spread the back down. We'll work with that one leg bridge, second side, a lift and a lower down. Slow and steady. And the next time we lift, that's when we're going to hold. So draw your weight up, stretch the right leg long, catch around with the hands, hold the leg there as we lower the pelvis down to the floor. And once we've lowered down, as we did before, draw back with the palms and press the leg against the hands. Keeping that right leg long, bring the hands to the floor again, and we'll take another 5 rounds of that one leg bridge. A lift, squeeze the right thigh in, and then lower down. Okay, last time we'll lift up, we'll hold, and then we'll lower down. Right foot to the floor. Take a moment there just to rest, resettle the body, bring the hips, the pelvis to neutral. And then we're going to find that bridge pose again, 2-foot bridge once more. So lift up into bridge, hold there. And then first round, we'll just walk the feet forwards a little bit, just a little step forwards and then a step back. And we're going to continue with these steps, and you can explore how far forwards you want to take the feet. So we're working towards fully lengthening the legs, but don't worry if we're not quite there today. We want to build towards this progressively. So we're gradually creating the strength adaptations in the body. So nice and steady, walk forwards. You might explore just a little further forwards, and then walk those feet in. All the while we keep the hips lifted, and I'm keeping some pressure down through my arms and hands just to help support the movements. And we don't have to take them to the same distance each time. So one time you might walk halfway forwards, come back. Next time you might want to explore a little further into the movement. We're going to take just a few more rounds from here. Okay, let's make this the last one. Step the feet long, hold for a couple of moments, get that squeeze back on the heels. And then we'll step in. Let's release the pelvis down, and then get a squeeze of the knees in towards the body from there. You might lift the nose up towards the knees as well, just to stretch through that back line. And then from here, let's roll over, come around to all fours. And from all fours, we're going to come directly into downward dog today. So set the hands, get that grip of the fingertips, the tuck of the toes, and we'll lift up into that downward dog from there. Take a few movements, a few moments, as always, just to ease your way into that first down dog. And from down dog, let's take a few movements in and out of plank. So lift the heels round the back a little bit as you roll forwards, soften the knees, draw back up into down dog. Take that a couple more times, 2 more times. And then we'll find plank one more time, and this time we'll lower all the way onto our bellies. So either with the thighs firm or bringing the knees down for some support, so we can really control a slow release down onto the floor. Once you've come down onto your belly, untuck the toes. Let's place the hands onto the mat, rest the forehead onto the backs of the hands. Now, let's begin by rolling the tailbone towards the heel, so we're not arching the lower back too much. And then from there, we'll pick up the feet, stretch back with the toes. And as you take a bend into those knees, we're going to bring the heels together, turn the toes out, lift the feet up towards the sky. See if we can get that little squeeze in the butt muscles, and then stretch the legs long from there. And we'll continue. Knees bend, toes turn out, feet lift up, and then I stretch my legs long. And we'll continue with these movements for another 5 or 6 rounds. So just take them nice and steady once more. Okay, just a few more rounds. Keep a little tone in the belly here, so feel that the ribs are drawing in towards your midline. Let's take that one last time. Lift, lengthen the legs. Let's draw back into child's pose from there. Take a stretch through that back line. So draw the sit bones back to the heels. You can take a little wriggle, a little rock around in child's pose. And then from there, we'll return to our downward facing dog. So find your way back up, reset that downward dog. And then from down dog, again, we'll roll forwards to plank and control that release down onto the floor. So belly strong. If the knees are lifted, keep the thighs strong, reach back through the heels. See if we can control our way down. Once we're down again, untuck the toes. This time we're going to keep the feet grounded for now. Roll the shoulders back. As we pull back on the palms, we'll lift into low cobra, float the hands as well, and then lower down. Take another round like that with the feet grounded, with the tailbone drawing back to the heels. And as we continue with these movements, option is you lift the chest, float the feet as well, and then we lower. And as we did with the last movement, we're going to take another 5 or so rounds from here. The next time you find your top position, hold for an extra few moments, stretch the toes back, lengthen the top of the head forwards. And again, let's find our way back to child's pose again. Press down through hands and knees, roll your way back, take that stretch through the lower back from there. And from here, let's return to downward dog again. And from downward dog, we'll bring the feet forwards to the hands. So let's release to a standing fold. Spread the toes, soften the knees, reach around the backs of the legs today. Let's get a catch hold of the elbows, the opposite forearms, and get a good squeeze of the belly and the thighs together as you take some little pulsing movements into the knees. So take a softening of the knees and then re-lengthen. And just explore that for a few more rounds. The next time you lengthen your legs, hold there. So you might want to release the fingertips to the floor again. Soften, relax through the head, through the jaw, through the face. If you want to take any little sways, any movements around, feel free to do so. And from your fold position, let's start to transition up to standing mountain. So actively press the feet down, a little engagement through the belly. You can roll your way up or sweep those arms to the sky. And once you've found your standing mountain, take a moment for that just to land. If, like me, you're around about the middle of the mat, you might want to take a step forwards. And from our mountain pose, we're going to move through a round of sun salutation. We sweep those arms up, soften the knees, pull back on the feet as we fold. And as we bend those knees, place the hands flat. We keep the weight into the hands as we step the legs back. And from there, take your preferred transition to downward dog. So you can roll your way up and back again. You can move through knees down cobra, through chaturanga up dog. And then from your downward facing dog, let's float the right leg, stretch back through the right heel. Draw the knee towards the chest, shoulders forwards. Take a moment there, press through the palms, and then step that right foot down onto the floor. Let's bring the left knee to the floor as well. First round of lunge, we want a long stance. So walk or slide the left knee back so it's a considerable distance behind the hips. We're going to step the fingertips back behind the right heel, lift the toes. As you squeeze the legs together, we shift back to half splits. and then we shift forwards. So moving forwards and back. As we draw back, we want the hips to be more or less over that left knee, not too far behind it. Okay, one last time. We'll draw back, we'll find half splits, and we'll hold there. Squeeze the right heel to the left knee, pull back on the fingertips, draw the chest forwards for now. So feel that we're working towards a little arch in the lower back. If you want to soften a little deeper into the fold, maybe the hands go flat, the elbows bend, but maintain that little traction back on the palms or the fingertips. And then just allow the spine to soften for a few moments. Fold towards the right shin. See if that's shifted anything in the quality of the pose for you. And as we shift the weight forwards from there, we're going to move back through plank again, and from plank through our preferred vinyasa once more. Find your way to downward dog. If you're working chaturanga up dog, keep the knees lifted through the transition. So legs stay strong, feet stay pressing down. And then from your downward facing dog, let's move through that posture second side. Left leg lifts, knee forwards to chest, press away with the hands, and then we can step that left foot down as many steps as that takes. Right knee to the floor, lengthen the stance, bring the fingertips behind the line of the left heel. We lift the toes to make the ankle active, squeeze the legs, and we shift our weight back from there. Squeezing forwards. And just as we did first side, we'll take a few more rounds of this movement, just easing our way into this half splits position. So it's almost as if I'm using that heel, that left leg to pull my way forwards. And then one more time, I lengthen the leg, hold there, squeeze the fingertips back, lift the chest. And can we feel that the left leg, the right knee are drawing towards one another here? You can stay up on those fingertips. You can bring the hands down, maybe a little bend into the elbows. Keep the spine more or less neutral for now. Let's return awareness to the breath for a few moments. Just notice if that breath has shifted in any way. And then allow the spine just to softly round for a few breaths. Okay, let's shift that weight forwards, plant those hands flat. We move to plank, from plank back to downward dog or back into child's pose for a few moments. And then from your downward dog, let's roll forwards to plank again, lower all the way down onto your belly once more. We're going to take another round of those locust poses. So find your way down onto your belly. We can take the same variation once again with the hands either side of the chest as we lift, as we lower, just as high as feels good for the back. Optionally, we can stretch the arms long, so that will bring a little more length to those levers. That might take a little more work through the back line. If that feels too much though, just keep the elbows bent. We lift and we lower softly, softly. So we're going to take around about 8 rounds in total. Gently up, gently down. If it feels too much to lift the feet as well, you can stay with the lift of the chest alone. And when you feel that those muscles are beginning to fatigue along the back line, let's return to our child's pose. That's where we'll meet. So draw the sit bones back to the heels, take a few breaths there. And as we did before, if you want to take just a little movement around in your child's pose, rocking the hips, maybe a side stretch by walking the hands to one side or the other, do what feels good for your body. Okay, let's find downward dog. And from downward facing dog, we'll bring the feet to the hands again. So take a step or a jump forwards, return to your fold. And from your fold, let's find our way back to mountain pose. So find your way up. Once we're there, we'll take one round of breath and just an opportunity to refocus our attention. And then another round through sun salutation again. Sweeping arms up, soft knees, fold your way down. Bend the knees, plant the hands. If you're taking a jump back, keep that weight all the way forwards. Press the floor, and then the body, the legs can be strong as you take that transition back to your plank and through your vinyasa from there. Okay, and find that downward dog once again. So we're going to switch back to the right side. Let's lift the right leg. Draw the right knee to the chest. Step the right foot down. Bring the left knee to the floor. This time a much shorter stance. So my left knee is going to be underneath my left hip. And let's take some propping underneath that back knee. So I've got a cushy block, but you might take a blanket or a pillow instead. And then bring the hands onto the right thigh. Now we're going to squeeze the legs together and draw the tailbone down towards that back knee. And then from there, it might be a little wobbly at first, so just stabilize the balance, and we'll start to lift the left foot. Squeeze the heel towards the sit bone, and then just very lightly tap the toes down. We'll take that a few more times. Squeeze, and then release. Okay, now we're going to lift that left foot again, and we can either stay here, just squeezing the heel in. If it feels accessible, reach back for the leg, draw the heel closer in, as close as it wants to come without forcing it. Make the whole body strong and see if you can hold that position without the foot dropping away too much. It might gradually start to drop its way down, which is very normal, in which case you can reset the pose. As I mentioned the other day, if the hamstring gets crampy, which can often happen, hands down, stretch the leg long for a few breaths, and then release your way down. We'll take a few more moments here. One last option I'll give you today, which you might not want to take today, but in future you can use it to work with the sequence, is to squeeze something between the back leg and the sit bone. So that can be a ball like I've got, it can be a foam brick. Okay, let's set the toes down, set the hands down, and move back to downward dog again. And then from downward dog, we'll switch to second side. Left leg lifts, knee to chest, come forward, step the left foot down, bring that back knee onto your cushioning. Make sure that the knee's not too far behind the right hip. Squeeze legs together. Tailbone draws down. Left toes are spreading just to stabilize the balance. And I lift the foot. I tap the toes down. I'm keeping a little lift of my belly button up to the chest. That just helps to stabilize the position here. Okay, we're going to lift the right foot again. Stay here or draw the foot in. Make the whole body strong. See if you can hold that position. If you have got like a foam brick, you might want to explore squeezing that between the foot and the sit bone. This wooden one's too heavy. It will just slip away from me. But if you have something there that you want to explore with, feel free to do so. Squeeze in, hold. Okay, that's probably just about enough time. So let's take the toes down, come back to down dog again. So vinyasa or no, as you prefer, and we'll take a few moments there. And then from down dog, let's return onto our bellies. We're going to take one more round of those locust poses. So lower your way down, return to that locust pose starting position. Same options as before, hands to the chest, hands reaching forwards. If you want to up it a little bit again, you can hold a block between the hands as you lift and you lower. But remember, you don't have to stay with that option. So if that starts to feel too much, you can bring the hands alongside the chest again. We'll work around 8, 9, 10 rounds. But if the back really starts to feel tired, then you can draw back into child's pose when you feel ready to. Okay. Let's take a few extra breaths in child's pose this time. So next time you draw up, we'll roll back into child's pose and then just resting there, forehead to the floor or onto the back of the arms, taking any movements again that helps you to find that sense of release through the back line. And from child's pose to downward dog. And from downward dog to standing forward once again, jumping or stepping, releasing down. And from forward, we'll find our way up once again. As we did last round, we'll take one round of breath in mountain pose. And then from mountain pose, we'll move through our final round of sun salutation, sweeping up, folding forwards. Again, if you're working with the jump transition, shift the weight in, press the floor away, whole body strong. We take the legs back from there and then into downward dog. Okay, let's raise that right leg up. Step the right foot all the way forwards between the hands. And this time, left knee away from the floor. We'll come into high lunge. So draw your way up. We'll take a few moments up here to settle any wobbles, spreading those right toes. I'm taking hands to chest for now, but if you want to reach the arms up, that's fine. And then from our high lunge position, we're going to take just a little hinge forwards at the right hip, bring the left leg in a bit so you can rest the toes lightly on the floor. Let's make the body strong here. So draw the ribs in towards center, lift the belly button up to the chest, and then from there, we're going to just lift the left foot. See if you can get that squeeze of the buttock muscles and then lightly rest the toes down, almost brushing the floor. And we'll continue lifting and lowering. And as we do so, once again, just making sure that we're not moving from the lower back. We want this movement to come from the hip rather than the lower back region. I've got just a little softness in my right knee here. One more time. We'll lift the left leg, hold there, and then start to tilt the chest forward so we find warrior 3. You might feel lots of sensations building in this right leg. That's very normal. From your warrior 3, bend the left knee, lift the chest, and squeeze the left foot towards the back of the head. And then we lengthen. We're going to do that twice more. Bend the knee, lift the chest, squeeze, and lengthen. One more time. We'll find that dancer's pose variation. Keep lifting the chest forward, squeezing the foot towards the back of the head. And then we lengthen again. Let's control the release. Left toes to the floor. Hands come down as well. We'll move into downward facing dog from there. Take a few breaths just to allow that breath to return to its steady rhythm. And then we'll switch over to the left side again. Left leg lifts. We'll draw that knee forward, step the left foot down, and then into high lunge position from there. Hands can come to center. Get that gentle squeeze of the feet together so we're stabilizing. And as we take that hinge from the left hip, bring the right foot in a little bit. Belly is strong here. I'm keeping that lower back more or less settled as I start to lift the right leg. Get that squeeze of the butt muscles and then lightly rest the toes down. You don't even have to touch the floor with the toes, in fact. Just lifting and then lowering. Might be lots of wobbles here, that's very normal. And then one more time, we'll lift, we'll hold. Let's find our warrior three, so hinge forwards. And then from our warrior three, we bend the right knee, lift the chest, squeeze the right foot towards the back of the head, and then re-lengthen. Do that twice more. No need to rush the movements, the transitions, nice, slow and steady. And then one more time. Hold for a moment. And as you begin to re-lengthen the right leg, we'll control the transition back, hands down onto the floor, and come again to down dog or into child's pose, whichever you prefer. Okay, let's come down onto our bellies once again. So roll forwards, come all the way down onto the floor. Now this time you might want to look towards the screen just for a moment. I'll demonstrate and then we can work this position together. So toes tucked, I'm going to firm up the thighs so my knees are lifting away from the floor. And then my first round, I'm simply going to lift one leg, little pressure down through the hands, lift the chest, lift the gaze forwards, and just draw that foot towards the back of the head. Now you can see it's a long distance away from my head. That's absolutely fine. We re-lengthen, and then we take second side knee bends. Little pressure down through the hands, lift the chest, look forwards, and then lengthen. So that's all we're doing at first. Set the hands as if you were going to press up into a chaturanga position. Tuck the toes, firm the thighs, and then lift one leg, lift the chest, squeeze the foot towards the back of the head. Strong work through that back line. Hold for a few moments, and then you can reset, take that over to second side. So we'll take a couple more rounds each side, and then you can take a little break back in child's pose. We're going to take 2 series of these movements. So first time we'll take maybe 2-3 rounds each side, and then draw back to child's pose for a couple of breaths. Just ease through that lower back before we move through for the second set of movements. And as you take another breath or so there, I'll just demonstrate where we're working towards progressing to with this movement. So we're going to take the same setup again. Tuck the toes, lift the knees. I'm going to draw one foot in, lift the chest. Now this time, optionally, as I create more pressure down through the hands, I'm going to work to lift the chest and see if I can just draw the foot a little closer to the head. Reset, lower down. Second side, I bend the knee, lift the chest, pressure down, squeeze, and then lengthen as we lower. So again, we'll take 2 or 3 rounds to each side. Even if you're not actually lifting, the chest and the body away from the floor, just that intention to lift, that pressure down through the palms. And over time, if you continue to practice with these movements, eventually you can take the second leg up to join. So we're taking a chin stand, hand balance, but I would suggest just building steady, steady. So tuck the toes, bend one knee in, press down through the hands, lift the chest. And as we've been doing all the way through the practice, once the back starts to feel tired, we'll draw our way back for that child's pose one more time. Just take a few moments there. Again, we're going to hang out a little longer in the child's pose this time. Okay, nicely done. A few breaths here. Just see how that back's feeling, how the breath is moving. And then when you do find your way back up into downward facing dog, this time we're going to transition through to a seated position. So find your way up, set your downward dog. And then from your downward facing dog, we'll step forwards or jump through, jump forwards, however you want to make that transition. Come through to a seated position with the knees bent, the feet flat, and the hands a little distance behind the back line of the body. Fingers, my preference is to turn the fingers out rather than turning them back. Find a position that works for your hands. Shoulders roll back so the chest stays lifted, and we come up into reverse table from there. Lift the hips, pull back on the heels, and then let's take a few dynamic movements today. Just lower down, just a little rest of the sit bones down, and we lift again. Lift and hold, and then lower. Let's do that twice more, up and down. And then one more time we lift, this time we'll hold the top position. Either look to the knees or draw the chin in a little bit, keep the back of the neck long, lift the gaze up to the sky. And feel almost as if you're rolling your inner arms towards your outer arms here. Get that little engagement around through the muscles of the arms. Okay, let's release down, stretch the legs long, and we'll just take a soft forward fold here. So just draw forwards, doesn't have to be too deep, just a few moments to rest into that fold position. Okay, we're going to take a second round. So reset the hands. For the second round, you can either return to reverse tabletop, or we can take a reverse plank with the legs long. Same principle, shoulders roll back, chest stays lifted. We press down, we lift up, get a squeeze, and then lower gently down. Take another few rounds, just moving in and out of the pose. And if this feels too much with legs long, rebend the knees, stay with the table for today. We can always progress over time. One more time, let's lift, let's hold the top position. And as the sit bones come down, we'll return to that seated fold again. Breaths. We're going to take one last round. A couple of options for you to consider. Option one is to stay with the pose just as we were practicing, the lift of the hips up. You might want to transition between tabletop and reverse plank. Option three is where the slidey things will come in handy. So if we want to take the slidey option, we begin with the legs long, we lift, we slide the feet in towards the reverse table, then we bring the sit bones all the way down, we reset. Lengthen, lift, keep the hands pressing down, keep the hips lifted, slide, release down, and then lengthen. So take your options, either a static pose, or you can take the stepping variation between one pose and the other if you don't have a slidey surface. Otherwise, if you are taking the slides, make sure that you keep that pressure down through the palms, that lift of the hips. And once you've brought the feet in towards the body, lower the hips all the way down. That's it. Lift, squeeze in, lower down. Nicely done. Next time you get a lift, hold for a few breaths longer. Take one more squeeze in. Release those sit bones down. You can be done with the slidey things as you take the legs long again and fold forwards over the shins again. Okay, let's roll our way up from the fold and release down onto your back from there. So take a nice steady transition onto your back. And once you've come down, we'll reset for our bridge pose. So just take a few moments to establish that pose. We want to just about reach the heels with the fingertips, back spreads down, sit bones lift from there. So find your low bridge to begin with. You can maybe wriggle the arms underneath the body, because we're going to hang out here for a little bit. Squeeze back on the heels. Keep a little pressure through the back of the head. If you want to take a variation, keep the heels grounded, but lift the toes and the soles of the feet. Good. Okay, last few breaths in this first round of bridge. If you are working with the interlace of the hands, unclasp the fingers, roll the body down. Take a moment there. We're going to take 2 more rounds of that bridge pose. You can stay with bridge, or you can take one-legged variation of bridge if that's something you'd like to explore. The third option is, once we've come into bridge, is to work towards upward bow, placing the hands down, wrapping the elbows in. Might just be a little lift at the head away today, and then release the shoulders down. My preference is to slightly turn the fingertips out, just to help with the wrap of the elbows into center. Let's find bridge first though. So find your bridge, come up, stay there, maybe take one-legged version. Or if you're working towards upward bow, hands to the floor, elbows wrap in, and we create that lift from there. If you are upward bowing, when you're ready to release chin to chest, control the release to the floor, backs of the shoulders, then the rest of the body peels down, pelvis to the floor. Take a few breaths again before our final round. If that feels enough for today, feel free to stay here. Just place the hands on the belly and breathe. Otherwise, once that breath has settled, we'll come up for our final round. Spread the back down, lift the hips up. Stay with 2-foot bridge, 1-foot bridge, or move into bow pose, hands and feet pressed down. And again, if you're fairly comfortable with your bow pose, one-legged variation is always there to explore. Make sure the standing leg is really stable, squeezing back on that heel. And when it feels time to release, upward bow, again, chin to chest, shoulders down rather than top of head. Release the body down from there. And this time, once the pelvis is down, let's move into reclining twist. So take the arms into a position that's comfortable. Drop the legs to one side or the other. Any variation on your reclining twist. And then legs travel through center and over to the second side. As you bring your knees into center again, let's take a hug of the knees into the chest. Take a little squeeze in. Again, you might want to lift your nose up to those knees. And from your back, let's find our way up to seated position again. So you can rock up or roll around, come up, find a cross-legged position. If you want to use some height underneath the sit bones, take what works. And then once you've found your preferred cross-legged seat, we'll walk the hands forwards and we'll release down from there. Just take a minute or so here, soft breathing into the pose. So the feet stay just a little bit active here. Some pressure down through those outer feet. And from your seat, let's roll up and switch out the cross of the legs. From there, returning to fold once more. This time, once you draw your way up, let's extend both legs long, just for a moment. And then take a bend into the right knee and a gentle twist around from there. You can hug the knee or bring the elbow outside of the thigh if you prefer. Twisting opposite directions, so switch out the legs. And then back to center again. Re-establish any comfortable seated position, any comfortable cross-legged seat. And for 1 minute, we'll just simply sit. So hands can be relaxed, eyes can be open or closed as you prefer. And we'll just return awareness to the breath here, awareness to the body. Taking this time to really tune into how the body's feeling once again, how the body feels both physically and energetically. Are there any discernible shifts as a result of our practice today? And from your seated position, we'll start to transition onto our back once again. And this time, once we come down, we'll take our final resting pose. So as always, once you do make that transition onto your back, take a few moments to arrange the body in a way that feels comfortable. Let the body really feel held.